the 19th of December. Time is flying by. The Joe and Joe Weather Show, of course, brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York. The telephone number there is 631-756-1125 for the best prices anywhere in the New York City tri-state area and beyond. On rock salt, any of the popular snow melt and ice melt products like Pelleto and Mag Ice Pellets and Flakes, and anything else you need to get you through this upcoming winter, assuming, of course, it does snow eventually. Again, Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon. The telephone number is 631-756-1125 for the best prices in town. OmniTrueValue.com is the website. And Rayo should be popping on the window at any moment. There he goes. I should get my headsets on too. Hang on a second. Yeah, I'm plugged in.
Are you there?
I'm here. Are you there?
Are you there?
Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, I'm here.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. It took a little while this morning, didn't it?
It took a little while for what?
Well, I plugged in to the show, or plugged into the link that you sent me today, and it was like 5 minutes before. I just said, I guess I'm wondering why it's taking so long for him to, open up the door and allow me inside of the room here.
Yeah, I just got the I just got the notification midway through the very beginning here. So, but you're here, and that's the bottom line. And
yes,
excuse me. The what are you wearing? It's fabulous.
This was sent to me by the editor-in-chief of the Farmer's Almanac, Peter Geiger. I supply astronomical information to the Almanac. Have been doing so for, well, this upcoming year, Joe, 2022, will mark 30 years of my association with the Almanac. And so when we came home from our sojourn to Antarctica, we found this box on the front stoop, picked it up, opened it up, and here's what you see. In fact, let me just take the camera here for a moment, and you might be able to see the what's on the front here, if I can find it. There it is.
Yeah, I saw. Yeah, I noticed the emblem, but I couldn't read it. Very nice. I'm impressed.
So there you are.
You do get lots of you do get lots of clothes as a perk to what we do.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, like, I've got a ton of stuff from my News 12 days, jackets and raincoats and all this sort of baseball caps. So maybe they don't. Some of these places, they don't pay you with the amount of money that you desire or wish that you were getting from them. So instead they give you like a fringe benefit, and they give you clothes. So
right.
And
if you can get a jar of Jolly Time popcorn out of the deal too, that's always a big plus. By the way, I was thinking, was there an opportunity on the ship where someone might have asked you for an autograph, where you could have turned around and said, "Le crayon est sur la table."
La table.
La table. La plume.
Yeah. Actually, I don't think, but even as you and I guess, were closing out our respective television careers, everything moved from, "Can I have your autograph?" to, "Can I have a selfie?"
Right.
Nobody asks for autographs anymore. They prefer to, have a selfie with you, or to,
only if it's on, the autograph was only if it was on a check.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yes. Exactly. Kind of exactly.
And in fact, baseball players back in the 1950s, especially with the Brooklyn Dodgers, they used to save on money by buying groceries, because they knew that they were such icons in the minds and hearts of those, who lived in their neighborhood, that when they went to, buy, let's say, go to the supermarket or whatever, they go up to the checkout counter and they'd write a check. And they do that with the knowledge of knowing, with their signature clearly visible on the check, that that check was never going to be cashed, that whoever's behind the cashier would take that and bring it home with them and put it in a little frame or hold on to it for safekeeping. So
Listen,
that was one.
and a few people realize in those days they would play baseball or football during their respective seasons, and then they would be working regular jobs the rest of the year. I remember working with someone whose dad was in the old AFL, and he was a butcher. So he would play football, and then in the off season he would butch. you know,
Yeah,
uh, yeah,
great.
they all had second job. They all had second jobs, and they just didn't. They really didn't make a lot of money from doing what uh, uh, the professional athletes make today. It's a whole different
If you
world.
saw the movie, if you saw the movie 42, which honored the career of Jackie Robinson, I think one of the ball players made a comment that during the off season he worked in his hardware store. He had a hardware store on the side. Ed Kranepool of the Mets was a stockbroker in the off season. The great Nolan Ryan, and he mentioned this in his Hall of Fame induction speech. Nolan Ryan, the greatest strikeout pitcher in baseball history, pumped gas during the offseason, during his early days with the New York Mets. Of course, now none of these ball players even deign to do anything like that. They make so much money that, with millions of dollars, that why should they even bother doing that? But back in the day, that's what they had to do to make a
Yeah,
living in the
it's a
off
whole
season.
different world. So we've got Christmas week running ahead of us. And I don't know about you. I mean, I was kind of looking at everything in the last couple of weeks and for the next couple of weeks. I was not enamored, and I made it very clear. Of course, I was taken to the woodshed a few times in a few places by including by someone who you and I both know. I'm was not impressed with what I was seeing. I didn't like. There was a lot of things about this developing blocky situation that we have that just didn't seem right. It didn't pass the smell test to me. And now, of course, I was looking. I was looking at the weather over the next couple of weeks. It's like, to me, it's just a big yawn. It doesn't get that cold. Um, Precip is actually fairly minimal. Uh, there's a lot of things that are not right with this upper air pattern. I mean, we'll get into it in just a bit, but I'm amazed at how many people just kind of get led down the path by their noses by all these things that they see all over the place with regards to the long range and everything else. I just really don't get. I just don't get it. I just don't. But that's kind of how I see it, Joe. Benign week, not really too much going on. Um, Minimal inconveniences between now and New and well, let's say at least through the middle part of next week, just to be fair.
I mean, it seems to me, the just looking at the upper air pattern, that you're absolutely right. We're not going to be seeing anything exceptionally warm like 2015, where we had temperatures in the 70s on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, or even last year when the temperatures soared on Christmas morning into the 60s and melted about 10 inches of snow that had fallen the previous week. And I don't see anything particularly cold, no frigid temperatures that are heading our direction, unlike, let's say, the Christmases of 1980 or 83, where we were dealing with near or even at times sub zero temperatures. Now, it
Hmm.
looks like to me, Joe, that the temperatures for at least this upcoming week, Christmas week, are going to be basically somewhere in the 40s. No significant ups or downs. At night, temperatures will dip into 30, although tonight will probably get rather cold. It might, in fact, be one of the colder nights we've seen over the last several weeks. But again, nothing outstanding. If you're looking for cold, if you're looking for snow, I agree with you. I really don't see it. Central Park, to this moment in time, has had a trace of snow, and it could very well be that that could be the total amount of snow seen at Central Park by the time we get to the end of the year and the turn of the year.
Yes, and that's going to violate your 3-inch rule.
No, it's not. No, I mean, not violate it, but I mean, if you're a snow lover, you want more than 3 inches to fall at Central Park
Well, that's what I
in order
mean. It's
to,
not.
yeah,
It's likely not to happen. So,
right,
um,
right.
it will violate the sacred canon that says that you must have at least 3 inches of snow in December.
And you may remember also that we did a survey a few months ago about the wettest summers, and this turned out to be number 2 on the list in
Right.
terms of the top 10 wet summers. And if you look at the list, you found that 7 out of 10 of those wet summers were summers where the following winter there was less than the normal complement of snow and below normal snow year. And you tie that in with the fact that we have had less than 3 inches of snow at Central Park this month of December, and that seems to be pointing toward below normal snowfall for this upcoming 21-22 winter season.
Yep. And we're going to take a look at a few things. This is one of these odd situations where, you, I sort of look at this and I say, you could say to yourself, how can it be this way, and not and yet at the same time nothing is happening. So I'm going to bring up these lovely teleconnections, Mr. Rayo. They are just absolutely fabulous today. First off, the NAO, which right now is sitting negative, it's actually going to go neutral in a few days, and then all the members crash next week, down to 2 or more standard deviations below the mean, negative, which is pretty impressive. It's not off the
Yeah,
wall negative, but it's pretty impressive. So you look at that and you say, okay, well that should be a checkbox in favor of folks in the Northeast and the Northern Mid-Atlantic states. Then you have the Pacific North America Index, which I believe is one of the problems here, one of the bigger problems, and that is negative right now. Forecast to go off the wall negative through this week, and then it's going to rise pretty rapidly with a number of members approaching the neutral line by the time we get to the beginning of the year. So at least at the end of the forecast period, the Pacific North America Index is a little better. It's not ideal, but it seems like it wants to go in the correct direction for snow lovers. Here's the one where I thought was really impressive, and that is the Arctic Oscillation, or the AO. And this is Joe is going to be running 3 or 4 standard. I mean, almost all the members take it down to, at least 2 standard deviations from the mean, and some of them down to 4 standard deviations negative from the mean. It's going negative.
that's wow.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's going negative now, and it's just going to stay negative through the end of the month and the beginning of next year. So, you kind of look at this and you just say to yourself, well, okay, why are we struggling with regards to getting cold here? And I want to bring up the upper air sequence on the GFS today to point out a couple of things. Shraggy Stern hitting super chat, the super chat tip jar this morning. Thank you, Shraggy. Most appreciated as always. I don't know when the snow is coming. Um, it may not be coming anytime soon, but we'll see. First off, it looked like it was going to get cold for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. So what happened? Well, take a look at what's going on off the southeast coast of the United States on Wednesday. You have a low that is moving off. There's an upper air feature there. I'm going to just highlight this for you so you can take a look at it. So right there is an upper low with a trough, and also at the same time you have an upper trough that is swinging across from eastern Canada. Those 2 troughs were forecast to phase as this whole thing lifted on out to the northeast into the open waters of the Atlantic. And that was going to bring down actually a fairly impressive shot of cold air. Well, guess what? Not happening. Okay, there's no. It's just the models backed away from this a few days ago, more than a few days ago, and it's just not happening. So that takes away the shot of cold air that was going to come down for Thursday and Friday into Saturday. There's going to be some cold air, but you can see distinctly how these two systems stay completely separate. All right, that gets out of the way. And now we're into the weekend where we have this sort of flattish west-southwest flow across the U.S. You can see the higher than normal pressures across Greenland down into Hudson Bay, and then I'm looking at this and I'm looking and going into next week and just kind of taking a view of things here and saying, well, where's it going to come from in terms of storminess? There's really not a whole lot happening. If something were to break away from that trough in the western part of the United States, then you could get it into a good position where runs eastward and passes underneath us. Then yeah, maybe you could wind up getting something. But that is I think your one and only chance. And by the way, take a look also going into next week in terms of what's happening into the east. The flow of cold air is coming down from Greenland, which is fine, okay, but the cold air that's in Western Canada and back into the blocking high that's near the Aleutians, that's not coming east. There's the trough between it that's kind of blocked it off. So unless that western trough gets out of the way, and that's your negative PNA at work, by the way, unless that gets out of the way, it's going to be awfully tough to get it cold here. I mean, truly cold. Yeah, I mean, it'll be chilly. Might be temperatures will be closer to normal. Big deal. Okay, you're going to need more. And as always, when we've been running these long ranges lately, the pattern doesn't look good until day 14. Well, guess what? We've been running at that day 14 for the last 7 days. We haven't moved beyond day 14. So I honestly think when I look at all of this, and then a few people were pointing out that the MJO, the Madden-Julian oscillation, when they can't get things their own way to happen nearby, they go to the Indian Ocean. And they start looking at the Madden-Julian oscillation. They start playing with that. They start playing with that origami graphic that they put up. That to this day I cannot. To this day I don't know how to read it. But they go to the Indian Ocean. Oh, the Madden-Julian oscillation is going into a cold phase. 7, 8, and 1, 8, 1, and 2. $1.99. Bingo. And I looked at it and I said, you know what? All of this nonsense is fine and dandy if it couples. Nothing is coupling right now. It seems like you've got these things going on in the atmosphere that are sort of operating in their own little worlds, and they're not coupling together. Whatever's going on in the Indian, I'm not denying that the Madden-Julian oscillation. I'm not saying that it doesn't have impact. Yeah, it does. Obviously, what goes on there impacts stuff downstream, but sometimes it doesn't couple. What's going on over there? It doesn't couple across the Pacific. It doesn't couple through the La Nina. Okay. And the same thing holds also for the polar vortex, which we'll take a look here too, as far as the polar vortex is concerned. Yeah, the polar vortex, it looks like, well, I haven't looked at it in a couple of days, so let me see what it looked like from the overnight run. I mean, the polar vortex looked like it was getting all stretched out across the pole, especially toward the end of the forecast period, and dropping a trough into the eastern part of Canada and the northeastern part of the United States. And I was reading a few things about this. It would be kind of favorable for colder air to come down from the north, from a colder flow coming down from the Arctic regions. But here too, I just look at this and I say to myself, you know what? What if this winds up not coupling? Then what do you do? And I remember back a couple of years ago, Joe, where we had all these things going on with the polar vortex splitting in January or in late January, and everybody was getting all excited about it. And you know what? It never worked its way down to the bottom part of the atmosphere. It just never did, and I think that's what you're seeing now. So look, I got 41 years of experience behind me. If it doesn't meet the smell test, and I think it doesn't meet the smell test, don't argue with me about it. Okay, don't give me a. A few people gave me some really big arguments, and I'm, um, I found that really annoying. But no matter. Uh,
I think actually, if you really, maybe not so much snow, but if you want to see a shot of cold air, there is an Alberta clipper that by next weekend will be moving. Apparently, will be moving across
yes.
the across the Great Lakes, and as we move that along into next week, next Sunday, actually early Sunday morning, the thing looks like it's going to be somewhere off of Cape Cod. That's much too far north and east for us to get excited about any kind of snowfall. But the system, the flow behind that retreating system for late Sunday and early on Monday, the 27th, which by the way also happens to be my wife's birthday, looks like it will be enough to bring down a brief shot of some rather cold, Christmassy like air so that to kick off the start of not this week, but the following week. So that's about as close, I think, as we're going to get
Yeah.
in terms of wintry or Christmassy type weather, is that shot of cold air. And who knows, with that system sliding away, there may be enough atmospheric instability to cause maybe a few snow showers or flurries, maybe dare I say a snow squall, but that's more than a week away. So we'll ponder that in the days to come.
Yeah, I was just, I'm looking. I just brought the GFS up for the end of the week, and here we go for Christmas, going into Christmas Eve. I mean, this is where we had 516 thicknesses down to New York City. Now we have barely 534 because of the fact that the system in Eastern Canada doesn't phase with the one off the southeast coast. That pulls out now. If you're a snow lover, you got to hope. You want to hope that down the road, this is one way you could wind up seeing something happen where you get one of these systems coming down from the north, and maybe it pushes a little bit, maybe takes a track a little bit further south than this one will. But yeah, you're right. I mean, the first one goes by. Actually, I'm looking at this now, Joe. The day after Christmas, I think this is getting up to 552 before the cold air comes in, and then you get a low that forms east of Cape Cod there next Sunday, and starts to bring down some colder air. And this is how it can get cold also, and that's the negative NAO at work. But again, the West is a mess, and you got to fix the mess, the western part of the United States up, in order from a weather standpoint, in order for you know to see anything come into the east that has some value to it. I mean, none of this really has. I would just say none of this that we see has any real value to it.
And a couple of people on the chat board saying we have less than 2 weeks to go before this particular December will end up being what was being ballyhooed back in November as the start of a front-loaded winter.
Which
And we have
I
certainly
threw
not seen anything from
while you were away. I threw in the towel. While you were away, I threw in the towel. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, yeah, it's time to throw the towel in because it does not look like that's going to happen anytime soon. Anybody's hopes of getting a significant or even a substantial snowfall, at least the next 2 weeks, if not even beyond, it doesn't look like it's going to be happening, Joe.
Right. And for those who really are truly standing at the edge of the abyss, I would just point out that the winter of 2014-2015 really didn't get underway until halfway through the month of January, when the process got underway that caused the infamous half blizzard in the Northeast, and that was followed by 6 or 7 brutal weeks of weather through the month of. I think it was like the one of the top 5 coldest Februarys on record that year. and March was also. I mean, we didn't even, we basically stayed below freezing pretty much until the very end of the month. So it is, you're not out of time by any stretch of the imagination if the pattern were to right itself in some way, but there's just no sign of that anywhere. And I am looking at, after next Sunday, Joe, that colder air starts to come in. I would agree with you. There's probably like a little frontal trough in there that might produce, snow showers or a snow squall or two on the day after Christmas. And then we move into next week, and I'm just not seeing much here for next Monday. You got a nice high up north of Superior, but it's all dry air. Storms can't really come east. Storms can't develop in the Gulf of Mexico. Storms can't develop off the East Coast. It's just a snooze fest.
Yeah, and if you're wondering where all the cold air is, it looks like it's, for the moment, it looks like it's bottled up by the polar vortex over the poles. Northern sections of Greenland, the far, far northern sections of Canada, and even far northern sections of Siberia. That's where you have to go to get the real cold air. Otherwise, across most of Canada, it's cold, but it's not, anything to write home about. And even places in Europe are seeing, cold, but it's not exceptionally cold either. It kind of reminds me, Joe, of the winter that we had here, not last year, but the year before, where the cold air never really had a chance to, or the seltzer bottle never really had a chance to be opened and let all of that frigid air flow in any direction. So unless something comes along to open the bottle, so to speak, this may turn out to be another one of those winters where you just sit and you wait and you wait, and before you know it, you're pulling off the page for the calendar on the month of March and saying it's all over. What
Yep.
happened? We just used up another winter, so to speak, for cold and snow.
Leon Probitsky hitting super chat this morning. Thank you, Leon. Most appreciated on this Sunday morning. Kind of chilly over here, by the way, this morning. John Charles says Miller A's in this pattern are hard to come by. Well, John, that depends on there you have to look for the right bars in order to find the Millers, in my opinion.
And we all know that Miller makes it right.
That's correct. Yes, exactly. That was the old. What was that? Was that the old? That was the old logo, jingle for them, right? Miller makes it right, or
Right,
something.
Miller makes
Makes
it
it
right.
right. Yeah.
Miller High Life beer.
And by the way,
Yeah,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, I was just going to say that it looks like it'll briefly get colder here for the day after Christmas and maybe the 27th, but after that, I think it's going to warm up rather rapidly again. I think, Joe, we may finish out 2021 on a relatively mild note, temperature wise. At least that's how it appears right now. Things could change, and for all those people out there who are saying, that you were led astray by some of those longer range models. Remember what I said, and it all goes back to that quote from the short story by Isaac Asimov, The Last Question, where one, scientist after another keeps asking a more technical, more technologically advanced computer, can entropy be reversed? In other words, can you bring a tree back to life after it dies? Can you start a star up after all of its hydrogen has been used up? And the computer keeps saying the same thing over and over and over again through the centuries, through the millennia, through the billions of years. The same thing. There is, as of yet, insufficient data for a meaningful answer. And so, when you are a forecaster, a weather forecaster, and you start looking beyond, I would say, 5 days, and this is why if I were back on television, I would say, I don't want to do a 7-day. I don't want to do a 10-day forecast because it's meaningless. It's going to change. It's going to waffle. Go no further than 5 days out. Anything beyond 5 days, it doesn't make any sense. It will never verify, or rarely will it verify. Once again, as Asimov said, Asimov's rule, there is, as of yet, beyond 5 days now, there's yet insufficient data for a meaningful answer. So you could look
Yes.
10 days and 15 days out. you could look, you can see how interesting the pattern may look a half a month down the road. But remember, it's likely not going to. The one thing that I think you can put an assurance on, if you look at a 15-day prog or even a 10-day prog and see where the highs, the lows, the fronts are, all the placement of all the weather systems, you look at that 10, 12, 15 days out, one thing that you can be assured of is that when the actually arrives, when the day in question actually arrives, it's going to look nothing like what you're looking at 10, 12, 15 days out. So again, it's not even meaningful. It's interesting. It's fun. Just like all you people who pick up and spend your good money to buy the Farmers or the Old Farmers Almanac every year, just to see what they're saying. But in the long run, does it actually match up? Not always. That's the whole thing.
Well, we got still a lot of clouds in the east. I was actually quite surprised as I got up a little late this morning. There's still rain off the coast from southern New Jersey down into Maryland, Delaware, Virginia, North Carolina. I thought it would have been a little bit further east than this, but there's still rain down there. So I imagine judging also from the satellite, there's a lot of clouds sitting up through the Northeast. Last I checked, let's just see what's left of these watches and warnings. There's I think there's still a cluster of winter weather. Yes, and there are in Maine, in central and eastern Maine. We still have winter weather advisories up there. We've got a plethora, not a cornucopia, but a plethora. Okay, a plethora of winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings across Montana, northern Idaho, and into Idaho and into Oregon and southern Washington. So they're having a little bit of winter weather there. WPC, the folks in DC are looking at the next 7 days and they're predicting, Mr. Rayo, a tenth of an inch or less of precip from southern New England down into northern Georgia and northern Alabama. Some areas showing no precip whatsoever. And a little bit of moisture along the southeast coast from the Carolinas down into Florida on the order of 3/4 of an inch to maybe an inch, inch and a half. Still a lot of precip, though, getting pounded up and down the west coast with heavy rains and heavy mountain snows. Seems like that's been going on out there forever. And with the way the upper air pattern is, you can rest assured that it will continue to look like it's going on out there forever.
Absolutely. Forever and ever.
And ever.
And
Hallelujah.
ever.
Yes. Listen, I know the whole tenor's part to Handel's Messiah, so don't knock it. Here's something interesting. I got the GFS out to 222 hours, Joe. Okay, so here's a way that you could get a cheap thrill. Again, if something were to some energy could possibly come out of the west, which is what this particular run does, and we've got a low there in Kansas with a northeast southwest band of frozen and some freezing precipitation from Maryland and southern Pennsylvania to the Great Lakes, a 94 low in northern Missouri. Let's all jump up and down for this one. And this is next Tuesday, the 28th. And oh wow, you might get an ice pellet at the start here if this is correct. So we got a low running up to the lakes on the 28th in southeastern Michigan, and since we don't have the block in the right spot, the low is probably going to track to our west and northwest and not get squashed. I guess there's also always the outside chance that it could wind up getting suppressed, which is something that some of the earlier runs were showing with energy coming out of the west. And I think that's probably still a possibility. But on the whole, it doesn't matter because either way, this is a big yawn, a big yawn.
Yes. Yes. Well, this really is how you would want it actually for the next week or 10 days when a lot of people are going to be on the roads traveling. A lot of people are going to be going to relatives' homes to celebrate the holidays. But that's for those who I remember, Joe, the Christmas, my first Christmas up here in Putnam Valley, December of 2002, and we had a massive snowstorm on Christmas Day. And I normally on Christmas Day, and back then we used to drive to my in-laws' house in Pennsylvania, and we couldn't do it that year because we had something like 10 or 12 inches of snow. I think New York had like 4 or 5 inches that
Yeah, I drove.
Christmas
I
Day.
drove to work at Pix that late afternoon and evening when it went to heavy snow, and that was no fun. That was actually that was a tough drive because of the heavy wetness of the snowfall, and the only upside was that there was hardly anybody on the road, which was good. So Tom Contino asks about whether if I could clarify where a block should be. Well, you want it basically over Greenland, or at least you certainly want higher than normal pressures there to the Davis Strait. But the bigger issue here is what's going on out in the west. And that is the troughing that's up and down the west coast that doesn't want to get out of the way. It's created a rather flat, let's call it a flat ridge, southeast U.S. ridge, and it's no good. Okay, you want the block. Well, let me see if I can find a map here that might show it a bit better. Okay, so let's go to the 500 and da, 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 da. La 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 la. La 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 la. Okay, so I'm looking here at the new run as the block develops over Greenland. Okay, I mean this isn't too bad. Okay, this isn't really too bad. But again, the problem is the West is all messed up. Okay, this is not good. Okay, I'm just looking here as you go to the end of this week, for example. You got this deep trough running up and down from northwest Canada down to off the coast of Southern California. So even though you have blockiness that's up here, uh, which is not ideal, by the way, this is what's screwing you up. So at the end of the day, I think if you want an ideal block, you kind of want it like this, where it covers Greenland, most of Greenland, goes into the Davis Strait, maybe pushes into Hudson Bay or at least into northeastern Canada. That would be much better. And you certainly want to get rid of all of this. And by the way, this big blocking, we can't forget too, there's a blocking high out in the Pacific along 160, halfway between Hawaii and the Aleutians, that's pushing northward. And that's not exactly helping the cause either, because it's keeping that West Coast trough just kind of locked in. So those are the things that need to be corrected. And they're not going to get corrected anytime in the next 10 days. Maybe after New Year's, you might see it get corrected, but I don't think you're going to see this getting corrected anytime in the foreseeable future. This from what I'm seeing on my little magic weather map over there.
Well, John Charles says that you need that ridge over the Gulf of Alaska, not the Aleutians.
Yeah, I mean, that ridge is too far south. You want it to push all the way up. At the very least, you want it to push all the way up. But you want to get rid of you want to get rid of at least some of that western trough. It just sucks. I mean, this is really what it boils down to if you're a winter weather lover. It's NG. No good. No good.
Yeah.
No good.
Yep.
So,
Yep, I understand.
So anyway, we're back full screen here, and we're coming up on 20 of 12. So I don't know about you, I haven't even had breakfast yet. So yeah,
I had a quickie bowl of Cheerios.
Oh, you did, Tom? I threw in the towel almost 2 weeks ago about a front end loaded winter. So that was long. I did that already. So yeah, I haven't had breakfast yet. So my stomach is like screaming at me, which is a good thing that my appetite's been coming back over the last several days. It's been a it's been a very, very slow upward struggle. Do not get colitis. It's not fun.
I can imagine.
By any stretch of the imagination, Joe, it is not fun. Wish it on your worst enemy. I will give you that. Okay, wish it on your worst enemy. All right, so what's the schedule for this week? You want to elaborate?
During December, I had offered to a number of libraries a program which I referred to as the Christmas Star, and this is a discussion as to whether or not the fabled Star of Bethlehem might have been a natural phenomenon like a meteor or a comet or a supernova or a unusual gathering of the planets, or whether or not it could have been a supernatural event. In any case, I had that spread out all across all of the month of December. And then suddenly I was given the opportunity to go to Antarctica for 2.5 weeks. And that cruise continued on into the first half of December. So that really screwed up my scheduling. So I went back to all the libraries and I said, well, what do you want to do? And they said, we still want to have the lecture. We still want to have the presentation about the Star of Bethlehem. So what I ended up doing, Joe, is I took all those libraries and jammed them into a span of just 4 days. Tomorrow,
Clever soul that
Tuesday,
you
Wednesday,
are.
and Thursday. Yeah.
You're so
And
clever.
as a result of doing that, unfortunately, it impacts Joe and Joe. The normal schedule of our being on at 7:30, will not be able to happen tomorrow night, and I believe Tuesday night we can come on at 8:30 if you care to do so, and also we could come on at 8:30 on Thursday evening. And on Wednesday, I just asked completely out of the show because I've got three different lectures going on. The final one starts at 7:30, which would carry me right over to 9 o'clock. And by 9 o'clock on Wednesday, I don't think I'm going to be in the mood to do anything. So, uh, so yeah, I'm leaving it up to you, the master schedule maker here, the suggestion of doing Joe and Joe Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday at 8:30. I don't think we'll do one on Friday, which is of course Christmas Eve, and then just leaving me out on Wednesday. But you know what? If it's so boring this week as as apparently looks, it may not be even necessary to do a Wednesday show to begin with.
Yeah, I'll Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday are fine. You know, the only thing I would say with the 8:30 start is as long as I'm physically feeling up to it, then yeah, then we're good to go. Okay.
I'm I'm with you. I'll be of course checking with you before we go on each evening to see whether or not you have the vim, and as a former president would say, vigor
Yes.
to go.
The Joe and Joe Weather Show brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York. 631-756-1125 for the best prices in town and in the New York City tri-state area and beyond for anything and everything you need to get you through this winter. OmniTrueValue.com is the website. So, all right. So tomorrow night, 8:30 is the tentative time. You know, my my health, of course, however I'm feeling, will depend on this. But let's shoot for 8:30, as you said, and we'll see you then.
Okay, we'll hopefully be together 8:30 tomorrow night.
Yes,
30 hours, ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow
that's
night.
correct. Everybody, have a great Sunday. Enjoy whatever it is you're going to be doing today, and we will see you tomorrow.